Well, hello my little beauties, it's David Connolly here, the web developer extraordinaire, and I wanted to do a little video responding to Microsoft apparently ditching PHP and give you my response to this. So here's the vibe, in case you haven't heard the news. An article was released, it appears to be credible, saying that Microsoft is no longer going to be basically having anything to do with PHP. I believe it's from PHP 8 onwards. Now, if you're wondering what that means exactly, welcome to the club. I don't really know either. I've had a conversation with a fellow PHP developer who knows his stuff about this, and the two of us cannot agree on what this means. For example, we know that there is a possibility, or it's technically possible to launch a website and have it on a Microsoft server. We know that, right? It would appear that that type of setup is no longer going to be getting supported by Microsoft. However, the big question is, does this mean that things like WAMP and XAMPP and LAMP and all of that stuff is going to stop working? Well, the information is not clear. My friend thinks no. I, on the other hand, think it probably does mean that it's going to stop working. But neither of us is too sure. The information is very unclear at the moment. What does seem clear though, at least in my opinion, is that Microsoft has pretty much just done to PHP what Apple did to Flash when they launched the iPhone and they said it's not going to handle Flash. Now, I don't know if you remember all of that stuff. I think it was 2007, and there were very obvious commercial reasons why Apple did that to Flash. The reason, the main reason actually, probably the only reason, now I think of it, is that Apple wanted to establish the app market. They wanted you to go into the App Store and pay for apps for your phone. But if people could just go and make Flash apps and have those on your phones, then the thinking at the time was that this could interfere with Apple's business model. It was an entirely commercial decision, and that's what happened, and that was what was pretty much the death of Flash. This is now happening again, except this time the players are not Apple and Flash, the players are Microsoft and PHP. And this time around, well, the information seems a bit unclear, but I'm going to give you my take on it. First of all, there's only a couple of people on YouTube I can find discussing this. One of them is Steph Mischuk, and forgive me, I didn't catch the name of the other one. Now, Steph Mischuk, in his ever optimistic demeanour, and I'm a huge fan, he thinks that this is nothing. He thinks this is water off a duck's back and it will not make a dent on the PHP community. The other YouTuber who discussed this, and I do apologise for not catching his name, I'll link to his video though below, he takes a sort of pragmatic viewpoint, which is he doesn't really want to speculate about what's going on or anything, but he thinks maybe this means that you should learn Docker or something like that. Well, I take the viewpoint that I'm not entirely sure what's going on technically, but I do know what this means in the greater scheme of things. I've said it before, but I'm going to say right now what you need to know, and I think it's kind of stating the obvious, right? First of all, let's have a show of hands for everyone who uses Azure, maybe to host your website. Azure, no, any Azure people? No. Oh no, that's right, because nobody gives a rat's ass about Azure in the web development community. Now, I'm sure that there are a few outliers. I'm sure that there's one or two losers who have come back from the Scrum meeting and the boss saw an advert on late night TV about some Microsoft thing, and maybe they're using it. But for the most part, the web development community have ignored Microsoft's offerings. We're just not into it. Their prices are not as good as AWS, and quite frankly, we're all getting by quite happily without their shit. Thank you very much, Microsoft, but we're just going to leave that. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, approximately 80% of server-side technologies are, let me say that again. Let me get this right. What's the phrase? Oh yeah, the phrase is 80% of the web is powered by PHP. And that number varies by plus or minus 2%, depending on where you go. Folks, it's a complete monopoly. PHP monopolizes the web. And if we are going to talk about PHP in terms of where it stands in the general landscape, I will not accept any other language apart from monopolization, stranglehold, and perhaps I'll accept complete dominance. That's what PHP does in the web development landscape. If you added up all of the websites that use Node, Python, Ruby, Go, Rust, whatever the heck they're into, Elm, all of that bullshit that I don't even know what it does, and some asshole's going to tell me it's not even a language you can use. Add up all of that bullshit, then double it, you crazy rock and roller, and you still do not touch the complete domination of PHP. And on this channel, we're on a mission to make PHP great again. Now, I'm going to give you the education here that nobody else has given you. I'm going to just lay it on the line and tell you exactly why Microsoft and the likes of Google and to a lesser extent Amazon hate PHP. And by the way, see when you go on YouTube and you see videos being pushed, and I know you've seen them come up, why isn't functional programming the norm? Probably the worst presentation in the history of the IT industry. I watched what the guy said. It was a complete load of cobblers. The guy said with a straight face that PHP is more in decline than Ruby. Garbage like that is being pushed by YouTube. Isn't that an interesting phrase? Isn't that the phrase of the year? Is it not? I never realized that YouTube pushed videos, but it pushes videos. And right now, companies like Google, companies like Microsoft are trying to push people towards their bullshit. And it is bullshit. I hate to lay it on you guys, but it's all a load of bullshit. Now, I'm talking to you, JavaScript developers. I think your stuff's a lot of bullshit. I think Angular's bullshit, React's bullshit. Anything with a JavaScript flag is bullshit. Unless it's being used for what JavaScript was meant to be used for. Little flashing bells and whistles, little pulsating buttons and all of that stuff. You want to do that? I'll be your biggest fan in the universe. But the moment you say, I'm going to have an entire website that runs on JavaScript, well, thank you for the Christmas present, because guys like me will be cleaning up so long as there's a healthy supply of highly well-intentioned idiots using JavaScript for everything. Let me explain. The reason why, when I was in the SEO game, the reason why I was able to charge 1,000 plus VAT per key phrase is because I was good at it. And the reason why I was good at it is because I was using a server-side technology, which meant that the search engines, when they visit the site, they've got this fully rendered page. And Google loves PHP. I'm talking about the search engine, not the company. But JavaScript's a different story. Please keep using JavaScript stuff, React and Angular and all that bullshit. Please keep using it, because it means that guys like me will always be able to dominate the search engines. Now, the reason, that's why their stuff's bullshit, by the way, and also because it gets rewritten every 5 minutes, right? There's zero stability. Clients don't like rewrites, folks. Been saying it since 2012. Are they listening yet? Oh no, some asshole's already rewritten another framework. Anyway, here's what's going on. You see, The price of hard drives, the price of storage has gone through the floor. Go to your local PC shop. Well, you might not get in these days with all of the COVID scenario, but go online and have a look. Look at how they are practically giving away tons and tons of space. Have you seen it lately? They're talking about all sorts of... I mean, we're not even using gigabytes anymore to describe the amount of space that you get when you buy a semi-decent computer these days. Hard drive space is peanuts. Storage is peanuts. The price has gone through the floor, and it's probably just going to keep going lower and lower and lower. I think it's going to be very interesting if this 5G kicks off, because quite frankly, I'm going to be thinking maybe I can just host here from my own place. But that conversation's for another day. Anyway, let's imagine that you own a big data center somewhere, or maybe a whole bunch of data centers, right? I mean, have I told you the story about AWS? Have I told you the story? But you know how that started, right? Well, let me take you back. I'll tell you again because I like to educate you people. I remember the day when somebody came into the office, must have been about 2005 or something like that, and they said, "Did you hear Amazon's offering hosting?" And I nearly fell off my chair. I was like, "What, the book company?" I was like, "Yeah, you can now host your stuff with Amazon." Now, back then, it was not websites that you could host. It was just files, you know, pictures and stuff like that. Guess what happened, folks? That's right, nobody bought. But then, as time went past, a couple of renegade rock and rollers realized that they could upload HTML pages, link to them, and serve out pages from Amazon. And Amazon had an idea. They thought, hang on, maybe we could actually function as fully fledged web hosts. Maybe we could do that. Now, do you like a good conspiracy theory? Then let's have a good conspiracy theory. I used to be involved in trading the stock market from 2011 until a couple of years ago. I did not make millions. I did not lock horns with Mr. Goldman Sachs or anything. I was merely day trading and faffing about with some apps, and I did a bit of work for the hit the bid guy. So, you know, declaration of honesty. It was small time. But something struck me, even with the small time vibes that I had. What struck me was that Amazon, for years and years and years and years and years, had a really rubbish share price. Now look at the share price for Amazon. Take the time if you can. It sat for, I think it was about $200-300 for ages and ages and ages. And for many years, Amazon were not generating a profit. Why is that? Do you think it's because Amazon just, their prices were so cheap, and maybe they were just like a bunch of blundering idiots? Is that why they never made a profit? Is that why their share price was so low? No. The reason why Amazon's share price was so low is because, like many of the large tech companies, Amazon were involved in very elaborate tax avoidance schemes. You see, as a developer, if you're a professional developer, you do realize that you can buy a top-of-the-range computer. In fact, you can buy 10 of them. And then when the tax time comes, you can say, "Hey, Mr. Taxman, I apologize. I had to buy all of this stuff." That's just the way it goes, right? So Amazon did that. And it's perfectly legal, by the way. And they did it on a very, very large scale. You or I might say, well, let's buy a really fancy laptop. What Apple did is they started buying data centers, one after the other, until, as I've said before, they had enough IT hardware to put a Death Star to shame. So, over the years, Amazon built up all of this stuff that they didn't need. They did not need it. But like I say, they came out with this file storage idea, and they says, well, we've got all of this stuff sitting doing nothing. Maybe we can get Mrs. Molly to upload her cat pictures to these big, stupid data centers. Well, Mrs. Molly was not interested. Nobody was. And for ages, it was just this kind of laughing stock thing. But then they came out with something interesting. I remember it one day. I was going through a self-help phase, and I watched a Tony Robbins seminar, and he was live streaming, and I thought, how's he doing that without this crashing? And I looked at the source code, and I saw this thing, AWS. This was a long time ago. And that was when I discovered that Amazon were working on a CloudFront system that could enable 10,000 people to watch a video at the same time. I'm sure you've heard about CloudFront. It's an incredible system. I'm teaching it at Speed Coding Academy next week. And what it does is, suppose you have a data center here and another one here. And let's say that there's some big event on, like, I don't know, some event that gets streamed, like a boxing match or something, or the final episode of Breaking Bad, I don't know what. And there's going to be a big rush of traffic at one time. What happens with CloudFront is the data centers detect that traffic, and very quickly they serve backups to all of these other data centers, and they can serve the content out really quickly, and they can handle lots and lots of traffic. Okay, that's basically what's going on. But there is a problem, a technical problem. You see, that's all very nice if you're doing video streaming for the next Mike Tyson fight or something. But what about all of the people who have websites? I mean, in order for the entire CloudFront system to work, unless I'm very much mistaken, companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, who all have their own versions of this, they need to have the ability to be able to quickly take data off of a server and quickly offload it and upload it somewhere else. Now that's fine if you're dealing with something that is stateless, such as what's the name of the stack? The mean stack or something like that. That will work just fine. But if you happen to be dealing with or hosting stateful apps, a stateful app is an app that has perhaps session management or cookies or something like that, something where the server has to remember lots of stuff in order for everything to function. Well, now you have a problem, because now you have potentially got hundreds of thousands, millions of websites that could all break if you have them involved in this shuffling of data thing that goes on with CloudFront, especially when there's big events happening. That's the technical problem, right? It's the problem that they've had for ages. They may well solve it. If one of them were watching this video, perhaps they could let me know. I'd be eager to hear what they have to say. But that is the problem that they've got. And that is the reason why videos like why isn't functional programming the norm and all of that bullshit are being pushed on YouTube. They are pushing you into learning. Well, I like the JavaScript stuff, but let's flip it around. They're going after PHP, because PHP is a bit like, from the perspective of a company like Microsoft, PHP is like a really popular YouTube channel from somebody who refuses to do AdWords, or whatever they call the adverts, refuses to do any super chats or anything, but just sits talking to a gazillion people. That's the relationship that PHP has, I think, with the big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. PHP is the ultimate open source project, the absolute ultimate. And think about it. I mean, right now I'm getting hosting for pretty much every website that I could ever care to host. I've only got maybe about 7 up, but I could launch 30 websites tonight without making a dent on my web space, and I'm paying, I think it's $11 a month for that. $11 a month. Unlimited sites, folks. That's PHP. Now, Those jokers from the big tech companies will tell you, oh, Firebase is great, it's only $25 a month, and you say, oh yeah, that's great. Do the math. Do the math. You know, how does $11 a month PHP land compare with $25 a month over the course of a year? And of course, that's before you've factored in all of the other bullshit. Have you ever looked at how they actually charge for things like Lambda? Should look into that. I did a tutorial on it, but I think I deleted it because it was bullshit. I became enlightened. You see, folks, this is what's going on. Turn the volume up. What they're doing is they're trying to get you to buy their bullshit. Their bullshit that you don't need. Their bullshit that will damage your search engine ranking. Their bullshit that will have you pay a nice cozy, maybe $35 a month to get on board with their bullshit. But they have a big, big thorn in their side. And the thorn is PHP, the ultimate open source project. Cheap as chips, solid as a rock, and as popular as an adamant reunion. So, that's the vibe, and there's my phone. As for what all of this means and all of that, switch to Linux. I'm on Linux. Switch to Linux. It's good. I'll see you later. Hello?